record. Looks like we're recording. Might as well kick it off. It's 9:16. I said we kick off at 9:15, so just try to be respectful for the kickoff time. So I want to welcome everybody that's watching. This is a recording, everybody that's on live, of course. Usually as we do these, people kind of pile in as the conversation goes, so you probably see those things populate a little bit more. How do we kind of get on this topic, man? Like we were kind of rapping back and forth privately when there was another event, and I think you were offering to talk about self-care or something in that area.
Well, no, so what had actually happened was that I'd actually written a post and posted it to the community just about my my workout and my diet. And it's like I posted that, I think back in 2013, 2014 on my public Facebook for free. And then it got a lot of response just because I kept telling people that I'd do it. And I've been doing that same routine probably since about 2004. And so I've probably given away that spreadsheet to like maybe about 300 or 400 people at this point. And you know, people just use the spreadsheet. The diet, not so much, but the workouts. People like using just because of the way that I have the spreadsheet set up. You can put in your 1 rep maxes, and it does the entire 12-week program for you. And so it's been actually really popular. People like using it. And so then I think that you've seen that.
An Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, well, Google Docs spreadsheet. It's the same thing. It's just a spreadsheet.
Google Docs. Okay, so if I search for your posts in the community, then it should have it in there, right?
Yeah, it should be there.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's how you guys can find it as well. If you just go, there's a search this group bar on the community tab, so you can search for anybody's post. So I'm just going to type it in right now, and it should populate all your posts, and I should be able to find it pretty easily. So that'll save people the hassle. There it is. Okay. Yeah. So like you're in phenomenal shape for 41. I mean, even before I got into TRT, like my best was probably around 30, 31, 32. Like you're thick, like you've got like a lot of thickness in your arms and tries. And like, I fooled myself because I was looking at the pictures and I said to you privately, I go, dude, like you got to tell us where you get your gear from. You're like, I'm not on any gear, man. Like I'm all natural. Right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, man, kick it off. The stage is yours.
Okay. Well, so like you were saying before, and that this is kind of just an informal talk, and I'm just going to kind of riff here a little bit. And so if anybody wants to interrupt with any questions or anything, then just feel free to interrupt, and then we'll just kind of go that way. So I'm going to start with a little bit just talking about how I started, and then I'll kind of talk about some practical things that you guys can do in order to kind of get in good bodybuilding shape naturally. Okay, and so I will have a little bit of stuff, like I'll try to keep the scientific stuff down to a minimum and just keep it to practical stuff. I'll provide some references that you can kind of go over those things on your own because it's kind of out of the scope of this presentation. But I will provide some references for you guys to kind of go over with that stuff. Okay, so I guess the two main takeaways, if we're going to take anything away from this talk, is that when doing anything with fitness, you want to pay attention to the hormonal and the metabolic responses that whatever that action elicits is, rather than just focusing on stuff like calories or on the length of the workouts, that kind of thing. So like, in other words, like when you're a teenager and you have a growth spurt, that's due to hormones, and that's not due to, to how many calories you eat, or I guess like tangentially, but you want to focus on kind of the hormonal response you get, which is why things like carb cycling, I'm a big fan of, intermittent fasting as well. Those things are kind of what make the difference in that you're not doing them for the, just because, the timing of the eating, like the calorie intake, you're doing it for the hormonal response that gets. And so same thing like with cardio. Like a lot of people think that you're doing cardio in order to lose weight. Like you don't do cardio in order to lose weight. Like you do cardio because it expands your VO2 max, and with VO2 max you can get more oxygen in, which means you can lift heavier weights, which means you get stronger, which leads to just being more dense muscular wise. And
can you talk for a second? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Can you talk for a second? You were mentioning the hormonal response. Like, what exactly are you looking for there, and what does that look like?
Well, like for instance, like say something like insulin, is will affect the way that you burn fat, that kind of thing, though, right? Or like depending on the way that you work out, you'll secrete more growth hormone depending on how you work out, depending on the style of working out that you do. Like most people when they hit the gym, they don't work out hard enough to see any kind of a benefit from it, and that the workouts are too easy, they're too long or too short. There is like an optimal kind of way that you can maximize your fitness. And actually, there's a book here. There's this book called Natural Hormone Enhancement by Rod Fagan. It's getting a little bit hard to find now, but this book is an excellent resource for that kind of thing, for kind of how to eat and how to design your workouts in order to, I guess, in order to achieve the best hormonal response. But the reality is, like, if you're interested in the subject, you can read this book, but you don't even really need to do that, as I'll get to later on in the talk here. So the second main takeaway is the effect of compounding, I guess you could say. So, everybody knows that if you invest, like, say, $5,000 a year from the time that you're 20 till the time that you're 40, you'll have like $2 million or whatever, though, right? And kind of the same thing applies to fitness as well, in that the effects of being fit compound. Like I'd mentioned before, if you have a higher VO2 max, you can lift more muscle. Lifting more muscle means that you're going to burn more fat because you have more muscle, because you're denser. And then because you get stronger, it means you can lift more. And there's that kind of positive feedback loop. So things compound, and so not just, in financial, but pretty much in everything, including in fitness, right? Okay, so I guess I want to start with a little bit about my background, and I'll kind of tie this into the whole compounding thing, and I'll make it, you'll see why it'll be very hard for somebody, like especially bodybuilding wise, to catch up to where I am in terms of my lifting. And that's why Rich said he was surprised that I was the age that I am and that I'm still just as big as I am. So both my parents are from Nigeria. They came here for med school. So both my parents are PhDs. My dad is a surgeon, and my mom has her master's in biochemistry and her PhD in psychology. And so that's, I guess, the reason why I'm saying it's important that they're from Nigeria is that when they first came here, they still ate like they were in Nigeria. So they still ate like people eat back home. And what I mean by that is that in Nigeria, you don't eat a lot of stuff that can go bad. And it's not that everybody doesn't have fridges, but it's just that it's so hot there. Like you wouldn't even, stuff like milk, you wouldn't really consume much dairy because it's going to go bad. Okay, and so when I was growing up, we would just eat just lots of meats and lots of leafy greens, not a lot of carbs. And as a lot of people who are into the bodybuilding diet know, it's like chicken and broccoli, chicken and broccoli, chicken and broccoli. And that's kind of what my diet was like pretty much every day growing up. And that we didn't have a lot of junk food that we'd eat around. And then I think the only time we were actually allowed junk food was like the Sundays after church. We would go out for brunch. And that was pretty much it. So again, anybody who knows the bodybuilding diet knows that that's pretty much what a strict bodybuilding diet is like. And so when I'm talking about the advantages of having a proper diet in terms of like their hormonal response to nutrition, I've been having that since I was like 1 year old, just having that proper diet. And on top of that, like we used to live right across the street from the school, and so I had to go home every day for lunch. Never ate cafeteria food, and so again, just having a clean diet pretty much every day. So by the time that it came to be in school and in sports, I pretty much just dominated in sports just because of years already of that diet just providing me with advantages over all the other kids, I guess, right?
Quick question for you while you talk about protein sources. I know chicken and broccoli is really popular, but is chicken the ideal protein source, or red meat, or pork, or fish? Like, what's your view on that?
Like, to be honest, when I'm dieting, I just take whatever protein sources I can get. So I'll have some fish and some ground beef and some chicken. But chicken is the cheapest one, and chicken is fairly lean. Like, I prefer chicken, but it's good to get some red meat in there as well, because that has different properties of the red meat as well. But you can always supplement with creatine in order to get the stuff that you don't need from. But that's really like, it's not really going to matter that much whether or not you have chicken or ground beef or
Mhm.
whatever. Like but all it is that red meat has a little bit more fat in it, but you can get really lean cuts of red meat as well. But again, that's not really here nor there, right?
Mhm.
So, um, so yeah, just growing up, always had a really super clean diet, and so once you started getting into sports, then I remember during football seasons, like when I first started playing football, this would have been in high school, and they had like the strength testing. I remember that like even in high school, they had the stack. They had a machine in just like a shitty machine in the gym at this school. I could do the entire stack for reps, and so they said, okay, well, you don't need to work out here. Get your parents, talk to your parents about getting or joining a gym. And so at that point, I got my parents to buy me just a little weight set, a little bench press set. And I just worked out at home. And I would have been around 14 or 15 when I started actually lifting. Um, so then, just lifted through high school, university. I was in engineering. And so I didn't quite lift all throughout engineering. Like I still did, but I didn't take it as serious as I took it in obviously in elementary school. And then what happened? Then I was done university. Oh, no, sorry, no, not done university. I was in Toronto on a work term. This would have been in 99. And I didn't know anybody in the entire city because I was just from Saskatchewan. And I was just there for a few months. And then somebody had left a magazine, old Muscle and Fitness magazine, in the subway. And it had this workout in it. And there was actually a gym in the basement of the building where I worked. And so I would just work out there every day after work. And I ended up going from, I think I was about 165 when I started. And by the time I was done, I was about 180, 185.
How
And
long did that
so
take?
it was about 4 months.
And
So what,
how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
Okay.
Yeah. And so,
That's pretty significant.
yeah, those are newbie gains though, right? So you can get those kinds of gains in,
Pretty quick, yeah.
yeah. And so, yeah, I got back home and everybody was saying that, oh, you should do bodybuilding shows and this and that. And I was like, I didn't really care about it too much. And so I didn't bother doing any shows. And then I told a female friend of mine that there was a bodybuilding show coming up. So then she said, she was in Calgary at the time. She said, oh, I'm coming to Regina on that weekend. And so you better be in the show because I want to see you. And then I was, that's when I was young and stupid. So I was like, oh, okay, oh, I'm going to be in the show. And so did the show. I only had 13 days to get ready for the show. I ended up getting third place. And so then, like, this was only 13 days of training. So then the next year I went back. This was in 2003. I won the Regina show, won provincials, I won nationals, then I went to the Worlds, all within a year and a half. And ever since then, every year I've gotten either first or second. I'm not sure how many championships I've run it now, probably around 10 national championships, maybe about 4 or 5 runner-ups. So every year I've won first or second. Again, except for in 2015 when my sister was getting married 1 week after the show, and so I wasn't able to do the show. Other than that, I've won first and second every year. Last year, I won my IFBB Elite Pro card, and I got a silver medal at the World Championships. And that kind of brings me up to where I am now with my background. So, but that's kind of what I mean when I say that. Like a lot of people will point to genetics as the main reason why like I've done really, really well. But like that doesn't matter as much in bodybuilding as in say something like basketball. I think something like 25% of the people that are like over 7'2" in the world are in the NBA because when you're that tall, it's an insurmountable advantage compared to something like bodybuilding where it helps out a lot. But I would say just the fact that, again, I had a really clean diet for my entire life pretty much, and that compounds over 40 years. It's going to be very, very tough for somebody that started when they were 30 or even like 27, 25 to catch up from somebody who's been eating clean their entire life.
Okay.
So does anybody have any kind of any questions or anything right now?
Any clarifying questions on background, guys? You can just unmute yourself, or if you don't have a mic, just post it in the chat. I got the chat window open here beside me. They'll just interrupt you if they got anything. So just carry on.
Okay. So now, I guess looking at the outline here, I'm just going to go into the practical ways of you kind of getting into natural bodybuilding when you when you're first starting. So, I mean, with me myself, I first started out by reading the bodybuilding magazines. And so if you don't have like any knowledge about like fitness or strength or bodybuilding, then you could probably start there. I wouldn't still say so much the magazines now because most of them are just shills for the supplement companies. But find a good, find some websites or whatever that you think that just offer good knowledge, and go from there. And that'll at least give you enough knowledge to kind of get your feet wet around the gym. And they also talk about kind of the nutritional aspect of bodybuilding and fitness, which is more important in the beginning than the specific workouts that you do. So again, you want to focus on fitness websites, not so much bodybuilding websites, because those are all about selling supplements and about ads and those kind of things. So stay away from those. So yeah, and then once you know your way around the gym a little bit, then you should probably increase the difficulty of your reading material. So a lot of these websites still have authors. Find one that you like, and then ask him. Just email him and ask him if he's published any books, and if he has, then just buy those books. And if he hasn't, then email him and ask him if there's any books that he recommends for somebody that's intermediate that wants to learn more about bodybuilding and fitness. And then just apply what you learn in those books immediately, and find a program that gets you the result that you want, whatever that is. For me personally, there's this book here called Yavrek Complex Conditioning. So he's the guy that I found that the magazine on the subway, and his workouts, they're so brutally hard, but they give you such great results that I emailed him, and he said, "Oh, well, I have a book." I bought his book, and like his book is the main reason for my athletic success, because workouts are just.
Can you sort of, describe a specific workout on like a major body part, like let's say chest or like arms or something like that, that people may not be aware of, that's like outside of the norm of something basic like bench press or straight barbell curls?
Okay, so like with Yavrek's workouts, like the workout that I listed it in that post, every day is legs and shoulders. It's all compound stuff, all dumbbells. He has this thing called the dumbbell complex, and what it is, it's a 6-set superset. So you have you do upright rows for 6 reps, then you immediately go into high pull snatches for 6 reps, squat and push press for 6 reps, bend over row for 6 reps, and high pull snatch again for 6 reps.
You wait, that's back to back to back to back.
Back to back to back to back. You wait 1 minute and you do it again, and by the end, you can't even move, right? And so these are the kinds of unconventional workouts that you don't really find anywhere else, but it's what gives results with his style of workouts. Like, there's only a few workouts that I do, and they're all pretty much his workouts. But we'll get to more into that later.
Got it. There's a quick question there in the chat. I'll just read it for the people that are watching the recording. It says, "Did you ever plateau, and if so, how did you pass it?"
Well, the program that I use, it's all based on your 1 rep max, and eventually you are going to plateau. But I don't worry, because I'll tell you right now, like in the gym the other day, I was squatting 585 for 2 reps, right? And I could go heavier than that, but I'm a little bit hesitant to go heavier because that's really a lot of weight, and that's when you start to blow your knees out. Like that's when you really start to risk injury. Anything over 4 pies, then you really start to risk injury. And so maybe about once a year, I'll try and test my 1 rep max out, but I don't need to be squatting, 6 or 6.5 pies, whenever I'm in the gym. And so
when you say pies, you mean plates, right?
Plates, yeah. So 45.
Okay.
6, so that's 585 is what that is. And normally I don't really go any heavier than that. Like, you're actually better off just with the spreadsheet that I have, I'll just adjust the weights up, and then it'll adjust the weights for all of my exercises. So that way you don't really plateau. You just keep doing the same exercises over again. Like once you see the exercise that I'm talking about, it's not you go into the gym one day and you're doing like bench press, you're doing your chest, and then you go bench press, and then you go like incline press, and then you go no. There's almost no bench in this program, and that it's all compound stuff. Which bench is a compound exercise, but it's all stuff like squat and push presses, and like I said, those complexes, those 6-set superset complexes that you do. But you know the thing is, any workout will work as long as it's one that works for you and it fits your goals. So this workout that I'm doing right now, like it's specifically for bodybuilding. But if you wanted to get in shape for soccer, there are workouts that you can do to get in shape for soccer as well. It's more along the lines of just finding something that you can do and being consistent with it. That's more along the lines of what you want to do rather than the specific workout. But I do have some examples of specific workouts as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so then, you know, after you've read a few books and that kind of thing, you're going to be looking good. You're going to be kind of at an advanced body, you know, at an advanced level. Like for me personally right now, I don't really read books that much anymore, once in a while, but now I go to conferences and I read research papers, that kind of thing, technical journals, you know, of elite athletes and their performance. And I also read a lot about supplementation and nutrition, and you know, far more than read about exercise and fitness and bodybuilding. And so once you're at that level, then, which is kind of where I'm at right now, then yeah, you're pretty good. You know, I enjoy going to these seminars. It's like I enjoy talking to people about bodybuilding and about fitness. I enjoy going into shows and meeting all the guys there, and I enjoy doing all that stuff.
What's your view on supplementation? Like, what supplements are a waste of time and money, and what ones work?
Well, I mean, they all work, but I guess it's a question of whether or not they're worth the money. And I would say most of them aren't. Creatine is worth the money for sure. Creatine is. That's pretty much all that I would say is creatine is worth the money. And the rest of them, they're just not worth the money at all. They work, but they're expensive. And the other thing too is that any kind of supplementation, even if you're talking about anabolics, anything like that, you don't want to rely on them, because if you rely on them, once you take away the supplementation, then your results just go as well too, right? Do you know what I mean? So like, I think I wrote in that post, you want to be like, you know, 50-50, say, or 40% diet, you know, 50% exercise or whatever, and then like 10% supplementation. A lot of the guys, like if you're taking anabolics, they're 50% like supplementation, then 25% diet, 25% exercise. You take away the steroids, and then all of a sudden they lose half their gains, right? So you don't want to focus on supplements too much. I'd say creatine is probably the best value for the money, and the rest of them I would say no. Well, protein powder I get as well, but protein powder isn't really, I don't really count that as a supplement. I just take it sometimes in the off season because I don't want to spend all day in the gym, or in the kitchen. But then again, when I'm dieting for a show, I'm always hungry. So I cut the protein powder out because I feel ripped off food-wise, just downing a protein shake or just eating a chicken breast or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What about glutamine?
Glutamine's okay. It's just not worth the money. I don't think it's worth the money.
Okay.
And you know, there's stuff like magnesium that will elicit a response as well. Mm-hmm. But you know, again, like the actual effect is pretty negligible. I would say that creatine is easily the best bang for your buck by far.
Let me ask you about magnesium, because I was talking to Jay Campbell a couple of weeks ago on the phone, because I was showing him my blood labs for TRT, and he said that 150 milligrams of magnesium is a little bit on the low side. He goes, you can take anywhere between 500 and 800 milligrams. What's your view on magnesium dosage?
Well, right now I just take like one magnesium supplement in the morning, and that's what I do. So I'm not sure what the supplement, like what the actual what the actual content of that is, but I just take one in the morning to help with, and that's it. So again, like I'm not big into supplementation at all. Just multivitamins, and then that's pretty much it. Just multivitamins, and then just creatine. I just cycle creatine, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Okay, and so now I would say in terms of when you're actually at the gym, like a lot of people, they make the mistake of going to a personal trainer. And I would say you should never go to a personal trainer because, like, first of all, they're expensive and they're not needed. You can get pretty much the same information from those websites that I was telling you to visit before. And a lot of the personal trainers, they aren't interested in pushing you to be the best you can be. Like, they're just there to get paid, and a lot of them aren't even certified. There's lots of garbage certifications that are out there, and so they're just there to be paid. And if you're not happy because the guy's pushing you too hard, he'll probably quit, and then there goes his paycheck, right? So what's more effective than getting a personal trainer is get a friend who's passionate about like going to the gym and wants to improve, and go with him. And if you don't have any friends that are passionate about fitness, then just go to the gym and find a guy that looks like he knows what he's doing, he's serious about working out, and just ask him if he'd like to have a new workout routine or just be your workout partner. And he'll probably say yes. And if he doesn't, just keep asking until somebody says yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one difference is a coach is actually different than a personal trainer. Like, there are lots of good bodybuilding coaches out there that will get you in ready for a contest, or that'll just give you like a nice, 10, 12, 16-week plan. But you have to make sure that they're coaches, that they actually coach people for bodybuilding shows. I highly recommend those, because they'll be able to have a good plan that'll like get you into contest shape in whatever 12 or 16 weeks or whatever they think is adequate. The other thing too is just don't make your own workouts. Like, I don't make any of my workouts at all. Like, it's far better to get somebody that knows what he's doing to make your workouts for you. Like I said, I use Steve Yavarek's workouts, and just because they're so brutally hard that not many people will do them, and just the response you get from those workouts is again, I attribute all my athletic success to doing his workouts. And there are some other workouts that I do that aren't as intense, like when I kind of need a break, but mostly it's just Yavarek stuff. And the thing is too is that, sorry, did somebody say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, can you spell Steve's last name again? Steve?
Javorek.
So I'm just typing it into YouTube. I just want to see if there's any exercises that pop up. There's tons there.
Yeah.
So Steve Javorek, there's all kinds of complex movements that he's got here, which will show you how to do all this stuff. So I'm going to take a look at this, for myself. That'll be interesting. Thanks.
Yeah. And so just to give you an example, like, a lot of people will say that you got to go to the gym, 5 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week, and for whatever. I go to the gym. Most of my programs are 3 days a week, day 1, day 3, day 5, and that's it. And so it's just the volume, though, because we're doing between 35 and 50 sets, usually in probably about an hour or a little bit more than an hour. And so they're really intense, but again, it's just response that you get from doing those. And it's counterintuitive. It's not a lot of like movements like bench that everybody's used to. It's all shoulders, all legs, all compound movements. So, but I'll post some of those the workouts there I'll post them to you later, and you can post them into the chat or whatever.
Cool. There's a question here from Jonathan. He says, is having the same diet every day detrimental to hormones and gains? Is there any way that you can create a meal plan that hits all the necessary macros and micronutrients? The reason I ask is I find having the same diet every day saves time counting, buying, and making food. I think that's where you see a lot of guys that kind of measure everything out in Tupperware, for the week.
Yeah. So I measure everything out in Tupperware as well. In the off season, I'm not so much. So I follow there's a diet in this book called that Natural Hormone Enhancement book that I showed you before. There's a diet in there, and pretty much what it is that it's no carbs, because the carbs will have an insulin spike, and that leads to fat retention. But then on day 3 and day 7, it's carb cycling. You're allowed to have, I think, 200 grams of carbs in the last meal of the day on day 3 and day 7. For me, that's Wednesday and Sunday. And when I'm getting ready for a contest, I do a carb cycling diet where I have low carbs for 3 days and higher carbs for 4 days. That's kind of what I do. But you can actually change your diet to however you want it. Again, just as long as you're cognizant of the effect that's having on your metabolism and on your hormones. So, yeah. Again, carb cycling is what I do, and so that works well for me. And so I'm not sure exactly what your diet is, but I eat the same thing all the time. I just go to Costco, I buy stuff in bulk, and I just follow my diet. Okay, and go ahead.
Sorry, I just like to elaborate on what I said before. So, I'll just go through what I eat in a day. So I wake up, I have 3 eggs and a banana. I go to the gym. I come back. I just eat a whole can of canned salmon. Have oats. Have some veggies, whatever I can find in the fridge, and then I come back for dinner and just have some more carbs. So I'm just wondering whether should I go see a nutritionist, make sure I'm hitting all my vitamins and minerals for the day, all that sort of stuff. that's kind of what I'm talking about, I guess.
Well, I mean, it depends on the nutritionist, right? I mean, I wouldn't see a nutritionist per se. Like I said, I would rather that you go to a bodybuilding coach because they'd be able to actually help you out a lot more. It depends on what you want to do, right? So if you want to like gain muscle, go to a bodybuilding coach. Somebody who's actually competed, who's actually done well in the sport. They'd be able to help you out a lot more than a nutritionist, right?
Okay.
Because
cool. Yeah.
well, because I know like just recently, I think in Canada, I'm not sure how it is where it is anywhere else, but they've revised the entire food pyramid and turned the entire thing upside down, right? And so like a lot of them, like they don't really know what they're doing as far as helping you build muscle. Like a lot of them, like yeah, you know what I mean. Like if you want to do something, go to a coach. A coach will be a lot better for you than a nutritionist who just hasn't done what you're, because a nutritionist doesn't know everything about nutrition. They just know what they were taught in school. They haven't gone through and done any of the work in order to do bodybuilding. So,
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for that.
there's this book called Sliced right here. Again, this is another book. This book was, again, one of these old school books made in 1991. And this is like the Bible for a long time in terms of bodybuilding nutrition. And so I'd recommend that book over any kind of nutritionist. And I actually did scan that book, and I'll be uploading it. It's not in print anymore. I bought probably about 20 copies of this book over the years and gave them out to people, but it's getting harder and harder to find. So I just scanned it, and I'll upload it to the group so people can take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thanks for that.
Yep. Okay. I'd say like now the last thing is you just have to be really, really, really consistent, right? So I know with myself, the last time I missed a workout was in February of 2002. So that was the last time I missed a workout. So that's like just over 17 years. I never missed a workout, and I rarely miss meals, right? And so the only time that I missed workouts, like I remember one day there was a power failure in the gym, and they kicked everybody out. I still wanted to work out. Another day there was a snowstorm, and so they closed the gym. Another day they were refinishing the floors, and so they kicked everybody out. But I still made it up another day. Okay, so like I've worked around like injuries, vacations, holidays, parties, or whatever. So you just have to be really, really committed. And I guess if you lack the willpower, then you have to associate a penalty to not getting your work done. So I used to have the problem showing up on time for my workouts with my workout partner, and he was getting pissed off. So we made a rule that if one of us was late, he would pay the other person $5. And so for you or for somebody else, if you have trouble, you can just go into the gym. You might write a check to your workout partner for $1,000 and say, if I miss a workout, then you get to cash this check. Or if I miss 2 workouts in a row, then you get to cash this check, right? And so that doesn't mean you can't have any flexibility. Like for us, sometimes something did legitimately come up. And like, so you can say like you can have 24 hours notice and that kind of thing. You can have some flexibility, but you have to have clear rules as to what will happen if you miss a day. And so you can never miss a day. Like I wouldn't have been able to work out that hard in the beginning without my workout partner, because we kept each other on track, kept each other in check. Now it's a little bit different. I don't need a partner now because I have titles to defend, and I have like world championship competitions where I'm paying thousands of dollars for these competitions. And so that's a little bit more motivation for me now than paying the $5 to my workout partner. But you have to have a penalty. The bigger the penalty, the better. And that's pretty much what you have to do in order to make sure that you're always consistent in your workouts. That's the most important thing, is the consistency. Because like I said before, the very first thing that I said is that the consistency, it builds up, it compounds over time, right? So again, so for me, not having missed a workout in over 17 years is really, really compounded. Because you miss that one day, even if it's just, a gram of muscle, you can't go back and re-get that gram of muscle that you missed, right? You see what I'm saying? And so that kind of builds up over time, over the months and years. It makes a big difference, right? And so, yeah. I guess, and now I guess kind of the last thing that I'm going to say is never, ever, 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 ever work out with a woman if you're a man, and vice versa.
Why is that bad?
Never. What's that?
Why is that bad?
Well, because you spend more time looking into each other's eyes and flirting and talking about how cute your future children will be, rather than just working hard. Like you're not going to work when you're working with a woman. You're just not. And there's other practical considerations as well on that. Like, she can lift way less than you, so you're always going to be changing weights, right? And so it's just not practical. And I just I don't know why you would want to anyway. She can be in the same room as long as she doesn't bug you, but like you're there to work. You're not there to flirt with your girlfriend or to do any of that stuff. So that's like the main. That's another tip, and that's kind of more of a bonus.
You said here in your talking notes that you had some strategies for remaining consistent. You were going to refer to Xander's talk.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Xander's that talk on goal setting. You can kind of refer to that. It's been a couple of months since we saw that, but that was actually his quadrant thing that he had with with getting all four of those parts of your motivation in order. Definitely check that out and apply that to your workout routine. Because I know that Jen, he did have an entire section on fitness goals and that kind of thing. So that may be worth checking that out as well, checking out his program. I'm not sure how much this program costs, but because I'm not part of it. But that may be a resource that you want to explore as well. Is that stuff? Anything that you can take that'll get you consistent is what you want is what you want in there. And personally, I think that money is probably the best thing. The bigger a check you can write to your workout partner, the better. And then if you don't show up, he gets to cash that check. And so that's probably the best motivator that I found, is just making it not just like a little bit of money, but so much money that you would hate to lose that money. Write your buddy a check for that. Just say, if I miss the workout, cash this check. That always works. I've never seen that not work before.
Yeah, it does work. We used to have this $500 penalty with our entrepreneurs group. So if you didn't show up at the kickoff time, like even if you were 1 minute late, there was a $500 penalty. And $500 isn't a huge amount of money to somebody making like a few $100,000 a year, but still it's like, it fucking stings. And when you have a commitment to be somewhere at some point, at some time, it's certainly an incentive. Mike asked in the comments who Xander is. We did a learning event. I think it was in December. The video's on the video tab of the website, so you can check it out there, or you should be able to find it on the community page if you search for Xander's post or learning. I don't know, maybe there's past events. It's definitely on the website. So if you go there, Mike, then you'll be able to get it there.
Yeah, and so again, going back to the very first thing that I said, the two main takeaways is, again, you want to pay attention to the hormonal and metabolic response that the action elicits, rather than just focusing on stuff like calories or focusing on whether I should be taking this supplement or that supplement. You don't really need to focus too much on that. And the second thing is just the effects of compounding. It builds up over time. And yeah, that's the main thing. It builds up. As long as you just remain consistent and you never skip days, don't skip meals as much as you can. Don't skip meals. Never skip days. And eventually, like, you'll get there. Like, you'll have to get there. In the same way that if you invest your money, over 20 years, like, you'll get there. You absolutely have to. I guess it depends on when you start too. If you're starting like in your late 30s, then obviously you'll see some benefit, but not as much as if you started when you were earlier, like when you were in 20s. Like, I started when I was, I think, 14, and so it's going to be very tough for somebody to catch up if they're starting, even like 10 years later when they're 24. It's going to be very tough for you to catch up to me, just because I have so many more years of training and of those gains under my belt.
Did you ever see Bill Phillips' Body of Work contest?
No.
He was the publisher for Muscle Media 2000, which then became Muscle Media, and he put up this contest for Body of Work. And I actually found a copy of the VHS cassette down in my basement the other day when I was cleaning it out. It's probably available on YouTube somewhere actually now if you look for Body of Work, but it's like this basically contest for the general public to try to like up their level of fitness. And there was a lot of guys that were 30, 40 plus that made some significant changes that had never really worked out in their life in the past. So what you're talking about, paying the dues daily, sort of thing, and being committed to the diet and being, committed to picking up heavy shit sort of thing. and do it on a regular basis, it's like a dividend. It pays out over time.
Yeah.
Are there certain pieces of equipment in your experience that you found that were not a good use of your time, like Smith machines or Nautilus machines, or I mean, like you mentioned dumbbells earlier, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So like with Yavorex stuff, it's almost entirely dumbbells. It's pretty much all you need is just a set of dumbbells. My gym, the dumbbells go up to 130 pounds. I would like them to go up to 150 pounds, but just the heavier the dumbbells, the better, because just the range of motion you get from dumbbells is a lot better. Like I don't really use machines at all unless there's a safety issue concerned. Like for instance, I'll be doing squat jumps, and so sometimes with the squat jumps, it's when you're doing squats and then you go all the way down and you explode up with the weight. And sometimes it calls up to like 350-pound squat jumps, and that's kind of where I get into like a kind of a safety thing, where I'm going to use the machine because it's just a little bit safer. It puts my mind at ease a little bit. I probably could do the squat jumps, but I don't want to risk having, just slipping or something with that kind of weight and it coming down on me, because I could really get injured. So a lot of the times, and all you need is just dumbbells and a squat rack. But again, it depends on the program that you're doing. Like, so for instance, if you're doing a program for, say, for soccer or for football, you may need different kinds of equipment. So it's just whatever your coach says that you should be doing, you should do. But in terms of like raw power, dumbbells definitely. And I've done a little bit with kettlebells as well. Kettlebells are okay. They're pretty much just a dumbbell. But I would say if there's a dumbbell variant versus like something with a barbell, definitely go with the dumbbell all the time. Stay away from the machines. Most of them are kind of garbage, except for if you're doing some kind of just for some kind of a safety issue, then you can kind of go with the machines. Other than that, I would say just dumbbells.
You said that with the Steve training system, it was like pretty much legs and shoulders every day, right?
Yeah.
When would you fit in like other big body parts, like, back or chest or, stuff like that?
Well, so there, like stuff like a high pull snatch, if you're not familiar with exercise, it is like a more of a pulling, it's a pulling motion. Anything pulling will do what's doing your back. Anything pushing does chest and shoulders. Pulling, does your back. And so he does have a lot of stuff like bent over rows in there, but it's just not done every day. Mm-hmm. But every day is some kind of leg exercise, so some kind of shoulder exercise.
And what's your view on intermittent fasting?
I do intermittent fasting. It's good. I would say definitely if you can fit all of your meals into a smaller window, then definitely do that. Definitely do the intermittent fasting. Yeah,
it works. Do you go a day like 20 hours? Like, what's your schedule for that?
For intermittent fasting?
Yeah, like what's your recommendation?
Well, so if I can get everything 2 hours apart, so if I'm doing my my low carb days, then that's usually about 8 hours. I'll get all my meals in, and then so for the other 16 hours, I don't need anything.
Okay. You guys can, chime in and ask questions. I don't want to, monopolize the time. Just unmute yourself. There's a question here from Philip in the chat. He goes, what do you do for recovery specifically for muscle fatigue?
Just rest it. I mean, like, what do you mean? Like, what do I do in terms of what? Like, yeah, I'll get a massage. I'll get a massage once in a while, but
massage, ice, heat, any supplements or anything like that?
No, I don't do any of that stuff. But again, so here's the thing. Like I said before, very, very, very intense periods of working out and then rest. So I'm only going 3 days a week, but those 3 days a week are very, very, very intense. And I'm focusing on not getting injured as well. So like I said, with the squat and squat jumps, I'll do that on the machine instead of doing it on the barbell, because I'm very, very cognizant of not getting injured. Right? And so sometimes I'll pull a muscle or something like that, and then you just kind of work around the injury. And yeah, you should ice it and that kind of thing. But normally I don't bother with icing because I don't really get injured that often. I'm very, very careful about getting injured. I would say that once I hit about 37, 38, then I just started like wrapping my knees and wearing a belt and switching from some of the heavier exercises and just kind of, if there's a chance that I could get injured, going and doing the machine version of that. But massage is always good. Like I said, after every bodybuilding show, I take a month off. So I take more time off than almost anybody that I know. But again, because I'm going so hard before a show that you have to take time off, especially as a natural guy. You don't have that advantage of taking, taking anabolics for recovery. So you have to be really, really careful, not go push yourself too hard. Again, you don't need to go to the gym 5 days a week for an hour and a half. It's too much.
Do you monitor your blood labs on a regular basis?
About once a year.
Yeah, and like you've got Life Labs probably in Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah.
What do you test your testosterone at naturally? Like, what does it come in at?
Oh, I'm not sure. All I know is that I just get the test done, and it's just like 20-year-old athlete is what the number, what my levels are at, though.
Okay, yeah.
And again, it's kind of that whole thing with just with increasing your hormone levels naturally. It's kind of, and again, like that's kind of getting into the weeds a little bit. I would say if you can. There's this book again. I'll post all the stuff. The Natural Hormone Enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a really good book. It goes into a lot of detail about these things, in just incredible detail, and just all the references that it has. You can just read this book. It explains it way better. Again, it's a little bit out of the depth of this talk, but just this book is absolutely amazing in terms of that natural hormone enhancement.
We've seen a lot of guys in the group post their blood labs in the last few months, 6 months. Somebody yesterday, I think it was Richard, that posted he's 30 or 31 and he said his fucking testosterone levels made him feel like a soy boy, right? I mean, like, would you recommend that guys that are not running at an optimal level would be able to optimize themselves by reading that book and then adapting the policies that are in there?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of asking yourself why your levels of testosterone are so low. Like, there's got to be a reason why. Once you find that out, then fix it. But the book does have strategies on dealing with that. And it's mostly through diet and through exercise, like the way that you structure your exercise. But again, I'd recommend not even making your own exercises and then just following the diet in that book. And I can kind of post a little bit as to what that diet is. I think I'd mentioned it a little bit before. But I mean, and you can always go the route of taking, like, the testosterone replacement therapy, but here's the issue with TRT though, right? Like most people do you know how drug tests work? Like most people don't know how drug tests work. So
yeah, they're usually done with blood or urine.
Yeah, but kind of the mechanism for what they do for drug tests is, so let's say that they want to test for testosterone or something like that, right? So they don't actually test for testosterone when they're examining your blood or your urine. So if you're naturally high in testosterone, you might fail the drug test. So they don't test for people with high testosterone because they don't want to have false positives. So what they actually do, and this is kind of germane to what we're talking about here, is that they don't test for testosterone. But if your level of testosterone is whatever 1,200, then there's other hormones that are going to be elevated as well, right? So if your level of testosterone is elevated, but those other hormones aren't, then you're taking testosterone and then you fail the drug test. And that's how it works, right? So the thing about taking testosterone is that there's a balance with other hormones that are in your system. So if you can increase it naturally through diet and through your exercise, that would be the way that you want to go. So people who have low testosterone, kind of figure out why your testosterone is so low. Talk to your doctor or to whoever. The strategies to increase your testosterone, do those naturally, or you can take the TRT. But like I said, you're better off trying to do it naturally, in that it's going to be a lot healthier for you. You're going to be a lot better long run. And again, there's that compounding effect as well, that if you can keep it up, then your test is going to keep increasing naturally. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree and support that. Like, Richard made an important statement where, like, as soon as you go on TRT, then you're basically relying on pharmacies in the state to supply your endocrine system's needs, right? Whereas if you can do it naturally, then certainly do that. I mean, I just hit a wall around 43, 44, and I was like, man, it was about a year of feeling like crap, and I just couldn't get it up. And then it was just like, the TRT thing solved it for me. So for me, it's been, it's been a blessing. There's another question here. It says, is your program more focused towards strength and hypertrophy? Is a result of that rather than a typical 3/4 sets of 10 to 12?
So what's the question?
That's from Mark. I don't know if you're on, Mark. Do you have a mic? Can you just unmute yourself and pose it to him? I don't know if you got a mic. It's in the group chat there. It says, is your program more focused towards strength and hypertrophy? Is a result of that? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Focus towards strength and hypertrophy is a result of that. Sorry.
Yeah, so there's a few programs that Yavrik has. His book is pretty thick, and again, he's a Romanian strength coach. I think he has a PhD in kinesiology and something else, or just something that he's very well educated. But he has programs for like general bodybuilding. It's all about strength and size. The program that I'm posted for is called the Power Crash 2, and that's what I use for pre-contest because so with that program, it's a lot quicker, a lot shorter rest times. Pretty much they follow the same structure. I'm an engineer, so I graph the entire thing as well. And they all follow the same 3-week structure where you have 3 weeks of relatively higher sets, then 3 weeks of relatively lower strength sets, and then 3 weeks of the higher sets again, and 3 weeks of really, really, really low, 3 sets per exercise. Like you have to look at the program. Again, this isn't something that I could ever make myself because I'm just an engineer. I don't have the education that someone like Yavrik has in this kinesiology and in that. But there are programs that he specifically says this program is for strength. This program is for hypertrophy, and so like there are programs he's designed for this. And again, the guy knows his stuff, so I would definitely recommend getting his book. But there are a few programs that I've kind of adapted into the spreadsheet form that I use. So 4 of them that I use on a regular basis. And there's also another program called the Triphase. I can post that too. And like I was saying before, that one is more of a traditional one where you day 1 you have chest. Day 2 you do back. Day 3 you do legs. Day 4, it's more traditional than that. And I'll do that sometimes because you'll get about 70% of the results of Yavrek stuff, but it's half as hard. So sometimes after doing Yavrek stuff for like 12 weeks, I'm just beat up. I'll take a week off, a week or 2 off. Then I'll do that Triphase for 9 weeks just to kind of rinse my palate and not have to go back and do just the soul-crushingly brutal workouts again. I'll just do something that's a little bit more traditional. But again, I don't make these programs up because it's not in my best interest to make them up. It's just other people that know what they're doing. You use their programs.
Question for you about Yavrik. You said he's a Romanian strength coach, right?
Yeah.
Did he train Olympians? Like who did he train? Because I mean, bodybuilding is a very unique, way of training because it's about the optics of the muscle, right, and the presentation and the balance and the symmetry and all that, right?
Yeah. So he did train some Olympic athletes, like basketball players, baseball players. I think he's at Texas A&M, is where I think he's at right now, and I think he's their strength coach there right now. But his stuff applied. He has programs for bodybuilding, again, for hypertrophy, for strength. He'll have like custom programs for soccer players, football players, wrestlers. He can just make programs for everything. I think he invented something like 700 dumbbell exercises. Like the guy, he knows his stuff. And there are lots of guys like that know their stuff. Find someone that you like and then just use their programs. Just don't make your own programs. Just don't do that. You're not going to make a program that's better than what Yavrik has made because the guy knows his stuff, or that's better than whoever it is that you're getting programs from. As long as the guys know their stuff, they're good coaches. Go with like a good coach. Obviously, just makes the difference. Can make the difference between winning and losing. So
cool.
I have a question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
How often would you change your workout program? Like if you're doing your back day and you have your certain exercises, deadlifts, upright rows, all that kind of stuff, and then you kind of keep doing them over and over again. Like how often would you change them? Like would you go 6 weeks, 8 weeks, trying different exercises for your back? Or chest or legs or something like that? Or would you just stick to the staples?
Well, okay, so 3 weeks. The short answer is 3 weeks. Okay, so the longer answer is that like with if you look at the programs again that Yavrik does, because I do his stuff pretty much exclusively now. It's every day is different. Every single day is different, but every day again has some leg exercises and something to do with shoulders every single day. And so his stuff is just really, really good. I've tried other things. Like there was, I'm sure everybody here has heard of Charles Poliquin before.
Yeah, he just died recently, didn't he?
Oh, did he? Okay, but his stuff is good too. His stuff is more traditional, and he recommends 3 weeks. big in his book, Poker Principles and Designing Workouts. But he has a whole section on designing workouts that, again, it's not like I'm not interested in designing my own workouts when Yavarek stuff is, there's such a variety in his workouts and it works so well that I really haven't needed anything else. Like I went from nothing to the World Championships in 18 months using Yavarek stuff. And so I've had so much success with this stuff that, you know, Poker stuff is good, but I recommend Yavarek stuff. Just his stuff is just so good. And if you can find somebody that's similar to that works for you, then go with that too. But you know, I would say don't necessarily make your own workouts, and don't like. And again, like obviously you want to focus on the deadlifts, the squats, and the bench / shoulder press. But you know, like I said, it's just don't make your own workouts. Just don't. Just find something that's really good and stick with that.
Quick question about shoulder presses. The difference between Arnold presses and regular shoulder presses, like one's a little bit easier on your shoulder. Like, is there one that you prefer to avoid injury or joint problems?
Well, so what I do, like, I would say I have pretty good arms, right? And so, but I almost never.
Pretty good arms is an understatement, dude. You got fucking pipes, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just show you like this. You notice how when you have your arm like this,
yeah,
with a forward grip versus like this, with a neutral grip.
Yeah.
Even just doing that right now, then automatically you're flexing your bicep. And so in every single whether it's dumbbell bench or squat and push press, I always do them with a neutral grip because it automatically incorporates your biceps. You don't need to.
So a neutral grip is like this versus like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can even feel right now like this, and then just turn your hand this way and feel how your bicep just automatically goes up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like there's stuff like that, like with Yavarek workouts, everything is neutral grip, and that's even just something small like that makes a huge difference when it's compounded over time. And you're doing like 30 sets of this, you know, during your workouts. So stuff that there's just little modifications you can make like that make your workouts. No, for Arnold presses, they're the ones when you go like this. Those are the Arnold presses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the Arnold press is?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I mean those again. The reason why I don't like those is because they're just like there's not enough. There's not enough. Not movement isn't the right word, but the amount of like if you're doing push presses, you can get done like 4 or 5 reps of push presses in the same time that it would take you to go down and do this. Do you see what I'm saying? So the amount of work that you're doing in a push press is way more work than in doing an Arnold press like this. Which is why like they're not even like this. No, I wouldn't really do Arnold presses. It's the amount of work that you're doing, the amount of weight that you're pushing the shortest amount of time. You have to be really, really intense. And those Arnold presses, they just aren't intense enough. You want to do push presses, you know, with a neutral grip. But then again, don't design your own workouts. So
yeah,
if your workout has Arnold press in it, then do it. But I would say a workout that has those in it probably isn't going to be as good because it's not going to be as high impact as something like push presses, or better yet, squat and push presses, or squat jump push presses. Those kinds of exercises where you have compound stuff that you do.
So your workouts necessarily contain shoulder workouts and legs mostly, and then you supplement chest and back.
Well, if you look at the workouts, all of the stuff, it's all compound movements. So like one day he'll have like, say you're doing upright row, and then you'll do like you know, a high pull snatch, and then you'll do like a squat and push press. And then maybe you'll go into like a bend over row, and then you'll do some squats or some squat jumps or some box jumps or whatever like that. But every day towards the end, it'll end in some kind of a squatting exercise, and it'll usually start with some kind of a shoulder exercise, or even something like a raised armpit or a squat raised armpit is what they use. But it's almost always compound stuff. Very short rest times. We're talking like between 20 and 40 seconds on everything, except for squats or 60 seconds. But again, you're doing between 35 and 50 sets, all in a matter of under an hour, usually. Very, very intense workouts. But you're just covered in sweat after the workout, and you can't. It's just they're very, very intense workouts, and they work wonderfully. They work great. I can't recommend them enough. But again, if there's other workouts, like I know with a lot of some of the like sport specific stuff that I know, a lot of these guys, they're the football guys that I know, their coaches will have them doing these specific drills, and they'll be working out for an hour or two, but it's a different kind of workout. So it just depends on what your goals are and to how you're working out.
So you mentioned that it took you 18 months on this program. The volume on this spreadsheet is insane. I just looking it over, it's crazy. But it looks great. How did you cycle on and off of the program over the 18 months? Because it's a 12-week on. Did you do a couple weeks off, or did you switch something in different? How did you approach that?
Well, so it depends. So there's like that program is 12 weeks. He's got other programs that are 6 weeks. I've got programs that are 3 weeks and programs that are 9 weeks. And so what I'll usually do is I'll have a target date. So if I'm doing a bodybuilding show, that's say in like 4 months, then I'll know when that show is. And so like, let's say I'll do like a tri-phase, which is a 9-week program. Then I'll do the big fun 6-week program. Then I'll think, okay, I'm going to take 2 weeks off. And then I'll start into my 12-week program. That's kind of what I'll do, depending on how I feel. But I always do like the power thrash. That's my pre-contest program. And I always do that before a contest. So I have my schedule pretty much laid out for me because I know when the shows are a year in advance. And so I know what I'm going to do to prepare for that show. I mean, I may be like, okay, well, I have exactly 8 months to the show. I'm going to do the strength, one of the average strength programs for 12 weeks. And then I'm going to take like, say, 2 weeks off. And I'm going to do his, one of his hypertrophy programs for 6 weeks. Then I'm going to do his cutting program for another 12 weeks or whatever like that, So I have a lot of flexibility in planning my workouts. But for the most part, the only thing that's for certain is that power thrash 2 that you see there. That's my pre-contest program. That's the only thing that's 100% for sure all the time. That's all I do for my pre-contest program.
How do we edit the sheet with our one rep max to set the entire weight stuff?
You have to go to file and then download,
okay.
or copy it to your account, and then
Okay.
Because I just change that squat number from 700.
What's that?
I said, be sure and change that squat number for the rest of us down from 700.
Well, the thing is, I don't want people going in and changing my numbers, right? So you have to copy it to your account or download it.
And where it says like max lifts, like raise to armpit, like what are you raising to armpit? Is it a straight bar? Is it a dumbbell? Like what are you doing?
It's a dumbbell.
Okay.
So everything is dumbbell unless it actually says barbell on it.
Okay, so like an upright row, you'd have basically two dumbbells in your hand. You'd raise them up like this then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, pretty straightforward. And if anybody wants to, if you're watching the recording, I mean, you can just YouTube search what an upright row is. I mean, it'll pretty much be explained there. You got any other questions, guys, that are watching live?
No.
It's pretty comprehensive.
Just one question about dieting again. Do you go through cutting and bulking phases, or do you just have one sort of phase all the time, or does it change depending on when you have competitions?
So the competition, for the 12 weeks before the competition, I'll do the carb cycling diet. That's in that post, I have a Word document as well, and it has the carb cycling diet in it. But there's also in this book, Sliced, it's the last chapter in this book called Sliced. And so that's the diet that I use for my pre-contest. It's the one that I've used for the last 16 years. It served me well. So check out that diet. I will actually, like I said, I scanned the book before, and I'm going to post it. So Richard will find a way to just post it in the group so people will be able to download it and read it. But again,
there's a file tab,
This is one of the best books in terms of just straight up dieting for a bodybuilding show. And if you want to cut weight, definitely this book will help you. But I do list my diet, like the carb cycling diet. It's the last chapter on that book, and it's there in that Word document, complete with like the calories and the weights for everything. It's all in there. And so you can just pretty much just read this book, just the last chapter if you don't want to read the entire book. And that has that diet in it. But I've actually listed it in that Word document. You can just take a look at it and let me know what you think about it.
Cool. Any other questions?
To finish answering your question about cutting versus bulking, is that like I used to like bulk up to like say 235 in the off season because I wouldn't necessarily worry about, because like I said before, you can always take the weight off, but if you undereat for one day, then you can't get that weight back. But now, like, you don't need to bulk up to 235. I just make sure that I'm getting enough protein. So because yeah, as long as you're getting enough protein, you're going to build muscle. Like your protein is going to spare your muscles no matter how hard you're working out. So I just make sure that I get enough protein in the off season. In the on season, I follow like that a really strict diet that's there in that book, super strict diet. But I just try to keep it right now. I try to keep it under 220, just so I don't have to take the weight off. But I just make sure I'm getting enough protein. Other than that, I don't pay too much attention to the diet. Just making sure that I have my day 3 and my day 7 carb cycle is what I do.
Just real quick as I go down the max lift. So raise armpit dumbbell, upright row dumbbell, high pull snatch dumbbell, push press. What's the push press?
Push press is like an overhead press, but you can use your legs a little bit. So you just push with your legs as you're doing that.
Okay, so is that seating or is that standing?
Standing.
Standing. Barbell squat, straightforward. Barbell jump squat.
Everything is standing except for like stuff like flies. It's all standing because
really?
okay. Well, because like I said, everything is going to be legs. You're going to be using your legs and your shoulders for pretty much everything.
And pullover. When I'm thinking pullover, I'm thinking like chest pullover. When you're
lying down.
So
that one you're lying down.
So that's chest pullover like this.
Yeah, it is.
190 pounds.
They don't have the dumbbells for 190. It only go up to 130, but
yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming 190 is what that's what we have it set as anyways.
That's your one rep max is 190. Like I do like 75, 80 pounds if I'm lucky, right? Like for reps. Like I'm looking at these numbers going, holy crap, man. Wow. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Oh,
cool.
See, but that's kind of what I was saying before though, and that like, the stronger you get, the more muscle you get, and then the stronger it's a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Right? The more you work out, the stronger you get, the more muscle you get, and so it just compounds. Right?
Cool. All right. I mean, we're well over the hour mark. Does anybody else have any other questions before we wrap up?
No, just a comment. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. There's a lot of great information in here and sharing the info on the spreadsheet and kind of just approach to diet. I know that's important to all of us. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll let this render and I'll upload it to an unlisted link and then I'll post it to the Facebook page. So look for the post when it goes up. I'll tag you. And then if you have anything to add to it or any links that you want to, just kind of point to, then just put that in there. Then once I've got the
I can share them. I uploaded them from a Google Drive right now. I'll just share them to you right now, and then you can copy them and do whatever you want with them. Okay. And then I'll probably unshare them in a week or two. I'll unshare them.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, man. Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. Gonna start